I've been told that growing up in many Italian households, a big pot of sauce on the stove was a staple in the kitchen. Your mess kit doesn't have a big pot, but you can still make the sauce and pasta using your personal cookware. If you grew up in New England in the 1970s with a TV, whether you were Italian or not, you knew that.
Most days, Anthony takes his time going home. But not today. Today is Wednesday. And as every family in the north end of Boston will tell you, Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day.
This is the mise en place for the homemade spaghetti recipe. To start, you're going to need spaghetti, 1/4 of a pound. To measure 1/4 of a pound, if you have one of these spaghetti forks, you'll notice that there is a hole, and this is a single serve hole. This up here is a 2-serving hole. The spaghetti is going to be put into a plastic bag. Now, as you can see, it won't fit. So, all the Italian mothers, please don't watch. We're going to break the spaghetti and place the 1 pound of spaghetti into the spaghetti bag. And that is how you fit your spaghetti into the paper bag for your mess kit meal. This bag is marked spaghetti, and we'll put that aside for a moment. The next thing you're going to need is an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce and the spices. I've pre-measured the spices into a small plastic bag and marked it spaghetti spices, and this includes one teaspoon of dried onion, a half of teaspoon of dried garlic, a half of teaspoon of oregano, a half a teaspoon of basil, a 1/4 of a teaspoon of coarse kosher salt, and a dash of black pepper. Some additional things that you might want to put into your sauce are, I picked up these Italian style smoked sausage, and I've counted out 4 of them, placed them in their own separate Ziploc bag, which is marked sausages for spaghetti. And into that bag, you're going to need to put a silica gel pack. Now, these come with things that are like the beef jerky and so forth, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. That'll help absorb any moisture and keep the sausages fresh. Another option, if you like, is you can add crushed red pepper to your spices bag if that's something that you prefer, a little more heat. Instead of the Italian style smoked sausage, you can add smoked Vienna sausage. And lastly, as a special treat, I've added 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, grated style, into its own separate plastic bag. Now this too will require a silica gel. All of this material goes into your bag marked spaghetti. So we'll start with the tomato sauce. That will require a can opener. Spaghetti, the Parmesan cheese, the spaghetti spices, and the sausages. Seal this up. And your mess kit meal is ready to go when you're in the field. I will make a comment about the Parmesan cheese. It will only stay a couple of days without refrigeration. So it's important that if you're planning your meal, that you make sure that you put your spaghetti towards the front of your trip as opposed to towards the end of your trip if you bring Parmesan cheese. See you in the field.
Did Marco Polo bring pasta to Italy? Probably not, but I'm not going back that far. Let's just leave it at noodles were being made in China over 3,000 years ago. Did Italian immigrants bring pasta to America? That answer is yes. Italians first settled among the Irish in the northern part of Boston in the 1860s. By 1900, the north end of Boston was a little Italy, with most residents having Italian roots. By the 1930s, the neighborhood was over 99% made up of people who were of Italian descent. 2 companies stand out that fed these people the foods they were familiar with. Pastine made tomato-based products, and Prince made pasta. I'll share info on Pastine at a later time because I'm going to focus on the Prince Pasta Company when I come back from starting the recipe.
Good evening. It's a beautiful night here at the Salisbury Beach State Park Campground. It's getting on towards evening and I'm going to make some dinner. Tonight I've chose to have spaghetti. Now the first thing that you need to do for this recipe is get all of your ingredients out and the pans that you'll be needing from your mess kit. So for this recipe I'm going to be using the large pan in the lid, the smaller pan in the lid, and if you don't have a second pot, you can use the fry pan as well for your sauce. I'm going to put that aside for the moment. Break out our ingredients. Oh, you'll also need a measuring cup. For our ingredients, we have the Italian style smoked sausage. We have all of our spaghetti spices and the Parmesan cheese. Additionally, we have the tomato sauce and a quarter of a pound of pasta. So the first thing we'll want to do is into the large pot, measure 1.5 cups of water. The easiest way to do this is to do 2 3/4 cups. Now we'll place this on the MSR pocket rocket and light the stove. Be sure to cover the pot and let that heat. It will take about 5 minutes.
At 92 Prince Street in Boston's Italian North End, 3 Sicilian immigrants started a small macaroni business. The year was 1912. Michele Cantella would make the pasta. Giuseppe, or Joseph, Seminara would sell the pasta, and Gaetano Guy Lamarca would handle the administration. Within 5 years, the business had outgrown the small storefront and moved to Commercial Street to build a proper factory. By 1939, the 3 realized they needed even more space to meet the demand and built a large factory in Lowell, Massachusetts. It was around this time that another Sicilian immigrant, Giuseppe Pellegrino, also known as Joseph, started buying interest in the Prince Pasta Company and soon became majority shareholder. In 1941, he bought out Lamarca and Seminara, and Pellegrino was named chief executive. It was Pellegrino who originated the slogan, "Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day," for radio ads starting in 1950. In 1969, under the direction of Giuseppe's son Joseph, Prince created the famous commercial with 12-year-old Anthony Martinetti that ran for 13 years. Now, let's get back to making the sauce.
While that's heating up, we're going to prepare our tomato sauce. We'll start by cutting the Italian-style dried sausage into bite-sized pieces. And then just put them right into the pot. Once we've got those all into the pot, we'll open our can of tomato sauce. And pour that right into the pot as well. Now what I like to do is take a little bit of the water, not much, just a splash, swirl around the can, and get all the remaining bits of that tomato sauce out. Stir that together. And then add in all of your spaghetti spices. Once again, stirring that to make sure that everything is covered. You can just set that aside for the moment. Let's check on see how our water is doing. Oh, it's getting there. It's lovely. So that water has started to boil. I'm going to remove the boiling water and turn the heat down a bit. Using my fork, I am just going to stir that pasta right into the hot water. Then return this to the heat. Now, as you can see, having cut the pasta in half, it fits very nicely into this small pot. Bring this water up to a boil and cook it uncovered for about 8 minutes.
The Pellegrino family remained at the helm of the Prince Pasta Company in Lowell until a decision was made in 1987 to sell to Borden Dairy, which had gone on an acquisition spree, buying 23 different businesses. Although Prince insisted that Borden maintain the Lowell facility for 10 years, workers knew that the end was coming in 1997. Despite an attempt by former employees to buy the factory, Borden would not sell the Prince name, and the building required cost-prohibitive upgrades, so the process died on the vine. Borden moved the pasta making out of New England, leaving around 400 people unemployed, and ending the era of Lowell being Spaghettiville. Let's continue with making the spaghetti sauce.
So as the pasta cooks, it's going to release some starches which will make the pasta sticky. And you'll want to stir the pasta about every minute to 2 minutes, just making sure that as it cooks, it doesn't become sticking to each other or sticking to the bottom of the pot. Spaghetti's been cooking for about 8 minutes. We're going to give it a stir, and let's just see how ready it is. Yep. Needs about another minute.
After changing hands several more times, Prince Pasta is now part of Winland Foods of St. Louis, Missouri. They manufacture several pasta brands, as well as a variety of other food products from sauces, syrups, dressings and preserves, to pita chips, baking goods, and plant-based meat alternatives. Anthony Martinetti passed away at age 63 in August 2020. He stated to the Boston Globe in 2019, "I always understood that it was larger than me, that I had a responsibility to preserve what the commercial meant to people. I knew that if I got into trouble, little Anthony from the spaghetti commercial would be all over the paper."
That's perfect. I'm going to remove the spaghetti from the heat and put the sauce on, stirring it in. Now let's cover that and reduce the heat to medium. In the meantime, we're going to take our pasta and drain all that water out. Once you've drained the water, just let it set aside with a cover on it while the sauce heats. That should take about 5 minutes. I'm just going to check to make sure that it's cooking through. It looks good. We're waiting for the sauce to heat through. Go ahead and locate the silica gel pack. You can't eat that. From the Parmesan cheese, so that your Parmesan cheese is ready to go. For the sauce to cook properly, it takes time. It's been about 5 or 6 minutes, and we're just going to check it again to see how it's doing. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful. Let's give it a taste test and see where we are. Not quite there yet.
If you decide to not make your own spaghetti, but want a taste of New England-style Italian food, maybe you want to plan to visit the Prince Pizzeria. In 1961, the Prince Pasta Company owned 4 pizza restaurants, including a 12-seat location on Route 1 in Saugus, Mass., called the Leaning Tower of Pizza, but it was struggling. Prince's president Pellegrino thought his employee, Arthur Castroberti, might be able to turn the business around, but the young family man wanted to own the business outright. He cut a shrewd deal with Prince, who stipulated he had only 10 years to make the pizzeria pay off all debts and become profitable. In half that time, Arthur began to see a turnaround, and the rest, as they say, is history. Castroberti continued to work hard and build the business, expanding the dining capacity while maintaining high quality. His father, an authentic Italian cook, had helped develop the sauce, and his wife did the books. In 1978, Arthur added a comedy club. Mr. Castroberti became a pillar of society in the Massachusetts North Shore and was a founder of the Route 1 Businessmen's Association. When he passed away in 2011, the torch having been passed to his son Stephen and wife Tricia, the establishment had become a New England icon, along with other Route 1 eateries that are sadly now gone, such as the Ship, Whaley's, and Hilltop Steakhouse. The popular restaurant is the largest family-owned pizza place in the United States, with seating for around 700. The chicken parm with ziti was delicious, but now let's finish our spaghetti recipe.
So we're going to check this sauce, see where we're at. Oh, that looks wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the sauce right into the spaghetti. Give this a stir. And return that to the heat. I'm going to let that cook for another minute or so, not even. Just enough to heat it. You want to regularly stir that to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. We'll turn off the stove. And that is some spaghetti that even Anthony's mama would be proud. Let's go ahead and plate this up. We're going to add some of our Parmesan cheese. Mangia. Well, the sun's gone behind the clouds, and it's a while that continues to heat, I'm going to go grab an overshot.